Hines Ward keeping those playoff hopes alive for the San Antonio Brahmas, even at 2-4. They delivered in a must-win spot against those Renegades last week, and now you head out to the desert. And listen, we've illustrated the imbalances between the XFL North and the XFL South divisions this year, and I think it's really what it comes down to. A lot of you probably saying, is that a typo in that graphic there? -3, Vegas? It's not. Even though the Vipers are 1-5 against the spread, 1-5 overall, still the favorite here. Remember, they were a favorite against DC week 2 as well. That did not go their way. They mustered 6 points last week and just traded their starting quarterback. So clearly, the odds makers have no respect for the XFL South. And I think it's kind of justified. That division has just not performed. So injury reports for the San Antonio offense. Jack Cohn back at practice in limited fashion. So if he plays, that gives him 3 options between Cohn, Jawan Pass, who started last week, and Kurt Bankert, who saw action, who just joined the team. I'm not sure really of what to make of that. I don't know if San Antonio has announced a starter. To my knowledge, they have not. Big opportunity for whoever does get this start because Vegas is the worst defense in the league. Not close on that. They give up 223 through the air and 136 on the ground in a league where rushing, really DC is the only team that can effectively run the ball. So giving up, I know they played DC twice. That probably inflates those numbers, but Jack Cohn solidifying that starting role back in week 2. Remember what he did against Orlando. They had 30 points in that game. One was a block punt touchdown. The other ones were Jack Cohn. He threw for 3 touchdowns. That's the game where he took over for Reed Sinnett. So if somebody can do the same and impress Hines Ward here between Pass and Bankert, I think maybe they take the keys to this engine the rest of the season. I think it's going to end up being Kurt. Definitely the most experienced option in that quarterback room. We'll see if TJ Vasher and Fred Brown can provide him some options. They're 2 stud receivers, especially Vasher. Seen some acrobatic catches for him. We'll get into that San Antonio defense just flying around. As far as the running game, not good news for OC Jimmy Johnson, who had his running back, Kalen Ballage, moved to the IR. Really, last 2 weeks saw a lot of these stars go to the IR. John Trey Kirkland, we talked about Josh Hawkins, now Kalen Ballage. Reed Sinnett, another one for San Antonio, who's arguably the most injured team in the league. Really tough to see Ballage go. He was a guy expected to get back to the league. So Jaquez Patrick and John Hillman, they'll get to go behind this kind of makeshift offensive line, who has struggled to find consistency, and it didn't help when their starting left guard, Mea Tehuma, went down. He is not practicing with an ankle. With all that said, we have yet to see an offense that has not been able to score on Vegas. They've given up either high 20s or low 30s the last 4 weeks. Like we said, 1-5 overall, 1-5 against the spread. They do have great players on defense between Peta and Max Roberts. They could cause some trouble for that San Antonio offensive line who has not been good. But you have Adam Sparks and Deontay Anderson, 2 guys in the secondary injured. They probably will play, but they're banged up. So I give a slight edge to the Brahmas offense. I can't believe I'm saying that. They're last in the league in scoring. I think they only have 88 points this year or something like that. So tough, but I can't back this Vegas defense. Flipping sides of the ball is where it gets a bit interesting. Look at this Vegas offense. 5th in the league total, 3rd in passing, 7th in rushing. Jalen McClendon announced as QB1 after Vegas said farewell to Luis Perez. Here's a little bit on McClendon. He was assigned here as part of that quarterback assignment in the offseason. 6'5", 215. He's a 4th-year pro out of Baylor, where he was in Waco. I think he only started 1 game there. I lost the job to Charlie Brewer, came in relief duty. Spent the early days of his college career in Raleigh at NC State. ACC, backed up Jacoby Brissett. So he's backed up some good quarterbacks. He's probably a name you remember if you followed the XFL in 2020. Remember, he was the backup to Josh Johnson for the LA Wildcats. And he came over to the Vipers along with Director of Player Personnel Joey Clinkscales and Social Media Director Dylan Mooney. So that LA to Las Vegas pipeline, if you're watching, Dylan, we're repping that. Always repping that. You could potentially see a starting quarterback matchup of guys who spent basically the entire season inactive as third stringers if we get McClendon against pass. This is what the XFL is all about. This is opportunity central for these guys to prove themselves and start the rest of the season. But I think it's going to be a tough afternoon for Jalen McClendon because that Brahmas defense is for real. Credit Jim Herman and Joey Porter for the job they've done. They have stars at every level. We saw Delonte Scott strip sack on Drew Plitt. That was the difference in winning that game. Jordan Williams, probably the top linebacker in the XFL, took that one to the house. I know he leads in solo tackles. And then think about the secondary. Luke Barco has been locked down as they get. Teddy Adewusi picks in back-to-back weeks. Number 5, the real deal, some of these guys. The Brahmas have a damn good defense, and this is why San Antonio is going to be the pick for me here this week, Zook. And I know I haven't taken a lot of underdogs, right? I think Vegas has given you a model where you can pick the favorites straight up without worrying about the number, and you could be pretty safe. And we've done well, Zook, in our straight picks. We'll get the record to you at the end of the year. We don't really track it. We can go back on it. But San Antonio, definitely one of the few underdogs that I'm willing to pick straight up. And again, goes back to my power rankings. I've got them at 5. I've got Vegas at 7. I don't know how they find points against this defense, Zook, and I don't think you've picked Vegas once all season.
I picked them against Orlando.
See, I forget they play Orlando. Do we really count that?
Well, you said I haven't picked
That's
them.
true. I am an absolutist. Zook going Brahmas.
I am taking the Brahmas.
Mikey's been higher on them this year, but, he's going with the hometown Vipers, and they're 1-5. Vegas has such promise. Like, they're skill position players. John Lovett, Sinque Sweeting, Jeff Badette. Got some guys, Martavis Bryant, Geronimo Allison, and on defense, they have NFL guys in Peta and Max Roberts, and they got good players, but they can't come together as a team.
They got good players, but they're a poor team, and poor teams find a way to lose.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done all season. So that's.
Can we talk about this for a second?
Sure.
How much do you think this falls on Rod Woodson? Is this a coaching thing, or is this just guys who can't click? Like, do you really so you trade Luis Perez. So now you've gotten rid of your OC, gotten rid of your quarterback. Is it a lot of finger pointing at guys who aren't the problem?
Potentially. I mean, he doesn't have that locker room. That's my opinion on it. And that's part of.
You almost wonder, like, you see Orlando coming together.
Sure.
And even though they're losing, good effort against Seattle. Dormity's laying it out in the line. I haven't seen, like, the effort from Vegas.
Right.
It just seems, they get absolutely blown out by St. Louis. They didn't have a pulse. They punted their first 4 drives. I don't know. I don't know how you confidently lay 3 with Vegas here. It seems like the sports books are kind of married to the Vipers. Maybe it's a hometown thing.
I don't know. I feel like they're.
This is the last home game, by the way, in Cashman.
Yeah, I don't.
Will Mikey Manziel make an appearance? We know he's been back and forth between Studio Z and Sin City. One last chance for the Sergeant of the Snake Pit to get out there. It's a Saturday game, 12 o'clock local kick.
My opinion, this is a game to stay away from if you're betting. But
thank you, Zook, for burying my future best bet.